Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Wedding Team Collective. Again, my name's Catherine here at the beautiful Red Rock Country Club, and I would love to welcome Angelica with Angelica Rose Events. Welcome, Angelica.
Thank you for having me, Catherine.
Absolutely. We're so excited. You do such beautiful work, and we're excited to share that with everybody. So wanted to first talk about you and kind of how you got into the industry.
Yes, so it's kind of a long story. So I was actually going to school for broadcast journalism. For some reason, I wanted to report the news, and now you couldn't pay me to talk about the news. So anyways, I realized I had a strong love and passion for details and party planning and themes and design. And so while going to school, I learned about a sister school at the UNLV called the International School of Hospitality. I got certified in wedding planning through them. And then I started working with a company that once was Green Orchid Events, and worked with them through years. And then I ended up buying the company myself and rebranding to Angelica Rose. So Angelica Rose has been here for 2 years now, but I've been doing wedding planning for 12.
Wow. Time flies.
Yes.
So a couple of things that I wanted to talk about is why would you need a wedding planner? I think you get asked that probably more often than not, and some of the details are up here on the screen, but what are some of the key things that are a factor that day that you would need someone there to make sure not only up to the planning process and the design, but also the day of?
This is a great question. I feel like I need to explain this a lot to grooms. Grooms truly don't get why we need to be there. We do so much more than just make things pretty. It's definitely not like the movie. I'm not J-Lo with a headset. So why you need, and for either service, for day of or full planning, I just think a couple truly needs an advocate on their side that is going to review every contract, help them stay within budget. We've been doing this for years, and a lot of times it's the couple's first time planning. So they truly don't know where to start. So we help guide them every step of the way from start to finish. And even though, wedding planning is an investment, we do a lot of times end up saving our couple's money because of the relationships we have with vendors. So again, we're just kind of there to be their advocate, their eyes and ears. If we don't think something's right, or if we know we could get a better rate or experience with another vendor, I'm going to speak up on behalf of them for that. So it's pretty much just like your wedding best friend. I'm going to be there with you every step of the way, holding your hand.
I love that. And then I think another part of that is it takes a team to build a wedding to happen, as we obviously Wedding Team Collective, but it's not only just your team of vendors, but I feel like it's the team on the wedding planning team that's there that day, that's running all over the venue, making 9 things happen at one time. So how does a team kind of play into how you run your business?
So like you said, it takes a village, definitely. So I'm very proud of my team. They're not interns. They all have experience for years when it comes to weddings. So how we work it on a wedding day is our wedding days are typically 12 to 16-hour days. So we're not just there, set things up, and then we leave. So we're typically like the first to arrive and then the last to leave at the end of the night. But we make sure that every aspect of the wedding is being overseen. So I always have a girl, overseeing ceremony. A lot of times it's myself with the couple, making sure hair and makeup's going on time. If they're doing a first look, making sure that goes well. Well, my team is at the venue overseeing ceremony, cocktail hour, and reception. So we have a pair of eyeballs on every aspect of the wedding to make sure if any fires come up, we're there to put it out.
That's perfect. Always key.
Yes.
So another thing that we talk about is design. And I think that always kind of gets used wildly. But one of that is that you want to have a cohesive look with your wedding and make sure that everything, when you look at that album that your photographer is putting together or you're looking at the day, you want there to be a cohesive feel, but it's also to a style and also to the feeling that you want to give to your guests. So we're going to show some examples here of weddings that you've done. And this first one is Danielle and Taylor. And Danielle, we had earlier with Gray Pearl Bridal.
I love them. Yes.
And this was a spectacular San Diego wedding. So tell us how the planning process kind of went and then some of the details that are chosen that you'll show here in the images.
Yeah, so when it comes to design for any couple, I always say I ask a series of nosy questions. And that's because I truly want to get to know who you are as a couple. What do you love? What do you hate? What does your house look like? Where was your first date? What's your favorite place to eat? Where do you shop for clothes? Because all those elements play into what your wedding is going to look like. And so with design also comes the experience, because it's important for us to have your guests leave saying that was so the couple, that it was so them, and not, oh, we've seen that a million times, or what made them do that? That's not them at all. So when it comes to design and experience, those two kind of go hand in hand. I always get a lot of couples, especially with full planning, that worry when hiring a wedding planner that the wedding planner is just going to kind of take over and steamroll their ideas. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. It's definitely a team effort that we create designs, the floral, what do you love, what do you hate, all those types of things. So we start off with kind of a design board. Once you give me some ideas, I'm going to just put ideas down on paper for us. And then we take that and present it to the floral team we're going to be working with. And again, it's like all hands on deck when it comes to designing the wedding.
Yeah. And this wedding, I know we had the one staircase, and I believe the groom came in one way and the bride ended up going down a different way. So how did that kind of come to fruition, and what are some of the logistics with that?
Well, this is what I loved about this wedding in particular, is Danielle was not like a traditional bride. She was very modern. I called her wedding minimalistic luxury because it was not cheap in any sense of the way, but the pieces we did were not overpowering and in your face. So they were beautiful and dainty, and it filled the space perfectly, but we didn't think outside the space. So when it came to the staircase, it kind of was like a last minute decision with this one. I think it was at the wedding rehearsal actually, and we rehearsed it. And I was like, are you sure you could handle these stairs? And she had her dad, and it was just this beautiful moment. So it was cool because instead of the groom just watching her walk down the aisle, he was looking up at her. So that was a beautiful one.
That's really cool. So this next wedding, I think, has gotten a lot of interest on social media because it was so different, which I just love. I love the fact that there are so many options for someone's wedding day. And this with Trisha and Brian, they really wanted a specific style, and I think you can see that throughout. So what were some of the conversations you had when designing this wedding?
So I absolutely love this wedding because, one, it was a challenge for me. So most of my brides are very ethereal, kind of old world, garden romantic weddings. Well, Trisha, she threw the word boho at me, and I haven't done boho before. So I was like, okay, if we're going to do boho really nice and different, not the typical boho we see. And what also I loved about them is they gave me a few ideas and then just let me run with it. So they trusted the process. So we did boho luxury and just filled all the space with floral. Kind of moody colors were important to her. They were older, so they were both turning 50 at the time. So definitely a sophisticated touch was important to them. But it was amazing.
I love it. You can see some of the things they did, like their dogs plural are very important to them. So they were able to add that into the cocktail hour, or even, when they were choosing their photographer, they chose the Light and Love, who has a very specific style that matches perfectly to that, which is key when choosing a photographer, to kind of match what you want with the theme. So when they're working on choosing their wedding details, you provide kind of an idea on vendors of what's going to be the best for them. So kind of what is your thought process when sending vendors to a bride and groom?
Yeah, so we work with such a huge variety of vendors. So it's very different when we're providing you vendors versus when the venue does. The venue's just handing you a list of vendors they work with all the time. They're great. They know the property well. When we present to you vendors, it's truly based on your style and budget, because not every photographer we work with is for every bride. So we have a huge range of vendors that we're going to pair you up with. And you definitely have a say so. So when it comes to vendor selections, we're going to present to you 3, no more than 4, because we don't want too many options. It gets confusing. 3 to 4 options. I tell the couple, please look at their website, their Instagram, get a good feel of their work. Tell me who you're vibing with. And then from there, we're going to move forward and schedule either an in-person meeting or a phone call. It's important that even if you love the vendor's work, that you also love their personality. They're going to be with you throughout the entire planning process. They're going to be with you during intimate moments. So it needs to be a good fit relationship-wise as well.
Absolutely. So this next wedding, I love the fact that it's such a contrast from the previous one we discussed. Afton and Chad had a specific idea in mind, and using those moody colors with incorporating the green. So what were some of the factors that went into planning this wedding and sort of the idea behind how we got there?
I love that you showed both because it's the same exact space, but they couldn't be more different. And their price points were very different as well. Trisha and Brian's was a lot more budget wise than this one was, but we still, again, made it beautiful. We worked within the venue. We didn't outthink the space. So Afton is actually a wedding planner herself. So it's always a huge compliment when working for someone in the same industry and the fact that she trusted me. But she definitely wanted kind of an edge. She wanted an edgy wedding. She wasn't like the typical fluffy frou-frou type of bride. So she wanted those darker elements.
I love that. One of the trends that we'll be discussing coming up is the neon sign. And I know that it's really important for couples these days to have a place to get that perfect Instagram shot to make sure that when their guests are walking in, they have a place to really get a beautiful photo to be able to post. So these little vignettes that are put together, you can kind of see how it's originally placed and then a couple taking their photo. What are some of your thoughts on when building an area for them to take a photo?
So I definitely love creating maybe 2 to 3 statement pieces throughout the wedding. And statement pieces meaning those guests are going to photograph the heck out of it and post it. So for this wedding, kind of having a lounge area, the venue called for us to fill up the space in some way so it didn't look sparse. So we did this vignette area with a company called Modern Vintage Rentals. We rented furniture from them and kind of created this really cool backdrop for guests to take pictures. And they did this in lieu of a photo booth. They did not want a photo booth, but they did want their guests to have the opportunity to take their pictures.
I love that. And set this up and have the photo booth in front of it if that was something that they wanted to end up doing as well.
Absolutely.
I love that. So the next thing I want to discuss is destination weddings. Obviously, here in Las Vegas, we are very proud of our Las Vegas vendors and our Las Vegas location. And to be honest with you, most vendors in Las Vegas are willing to travel and love it. So what are some of the weddings that you've done in the past that are in different areas? And what were some of the positives of choosing a destination wedding?
So I always say we will travel for love. So take me anywhere and everywhere. I'm there with you. So California has been our best friend lately. We've gone to California several times and we still have one, fingers crossed, slated for this year. But yeah, California has been good to us. Kind of an incentive of hiring a planner, not within that area is I just think you're going to have a different experience because we've never seen the space. We've never designed in the space. So to have a fresh pair of eyes on this space, I think you're going to be able to get more creative where when you've worked at the same space over and over, you kind of instinctually do the same thing. Like, oh, the cake always goes here. So that's where we're going to put the cake, or the sweetheart table always goes here. Where if I've never seen this space, I don't know if that's where the sweetheart table goes. So I think you're going to get a little bit more creativity when hiring a planner outside of the market.
I love that. Also, the idea of you live in Las Vegas and then you are planning your planner, you can meet with your planner, you can have those meetings in person. And then when you get to the venue, you don't feel like, oh, I have no idea who this person is.
Yes.
You have that relationship.
Absolutely.
I love that. So something that we're seeing a lot are trends. There are good and bad ones. We're going to touch on the good ones. But right now there are a couple different ones. And the first one is experiences. And I feel like this has been happening probably over the last year or two, but it's really amping up as we're changing what a wedding is these days. So what are some of the things that you're seeing in the weddings?
So when it comes to the word trends, I have a love-hate relationship with this word because when I'm planning with a couple, my goal is for them to love their wedding 10 years from now, 20 years from now. I want them to look back at their photos and it not be like when we look at our parents' wedding photos, it's like, Ma, what were you thinking? Like, I want them to still love it. So we try not to get too trendy. But there definitely are things that are occurring over and over that we love and will be valid 20 years from now. So when it comes to experiences, couples are definitely putting their money towards things for their guests to enjoy versus a tangible wedding favor. I'm definitely seeing that kind of taper off. You know, remember the monogram shot glasses or the decks of cards, those get left over, sadly, and then I'm stuck with 80 decks of cards. So put that money towards something your guests are going to remember, whether that's something edible, something that's going to make them dance even harder. There's a photo in here. The bride was known for her obsession with coffee, so we had an espresso card at the wedding that served espresso to the guests. So again, that kind of goes back to the nosy questions I ask. I always have those things that you love in the back of your mind, and then we're going to create something based off that. I had a couple that faithfully throughout their entire relationship, every Friday they went out for sushi. That was their thing. So for their cocktail hour, we did a entire sushi station for their guests to enjoy. And then instead of a signature cocktail, we did signature sushi rolls. So again, it plays back to what the couple loves, but the displays, kind of the wow factors, back to those statement pieces. That's where we're seeing the experiences for the guests come in.
I love it. And another way to really incorporate something that you love or something that has to do with the couple is these displays. So one of that is kind of taking, like you said, being nosy, like our love is goals or different things that might kind of match in with the couple. So with those displays, and they range because it could be, champagne to food, but what are some of the trends you're seeing there?
So people are taking the traditional elements like a wedding cake or escort cards and kind of making it a piece of art. So as you can see in this photo, the cake isn't just like slapped on a table. It's on this beautiful gold muted pedestal. And then they have a neon sign and this floral backdrop. And a lot of times that floral is repurposed. So I don't want brides to panic like, oh, now I need to add a cake backdrop. A lot of times that was the ceremony arch and then we repurposed it to be the cake backdrop. So we try and make use of the items we already had. Escort cards, people really want their guests to engage with something, whether that's, taking a glass of champagne or having to physically touch something and look at it instead of just like pulling a card off a table with their name on it.
I love it. I think there's a lot of different options, and you can do the difference between an escort card and a place card. I think sometimes that gets missed, but what are the differences and can they be combined?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So I feel like I could talk like a whole segment on this alone. So escort card does just that. So it's the guest name and table number, and it escorts the guest to their assigned table. So Angelica Rose, table 5, I'm going to go to table 5. The place card then represents the entree selection if you're doing a plated meal. So that place card will indicate if that guest is having fish, beef, chicken. And then of course you could dual it together on one card. You have guest name, table number, entree selection.
Awesome. And that offers a lot of creativity. So the escort doesn't have to be a card. It can be, as you saw there, have the sticks in the champagne, or it can be, a lot of different options, and it could be something for them to hold on to, and then it can move on. So I love the fact that there's a lot of creativity there.
Absolutely.
The next trend we're seeing, and it's something we've talked about a lot today, is micro weddings. And obviously it plays a factor with COVID-19 and everything that's happening, but they are such a fun opportunity and they are a little different than an elopement. So I kind of wanted to touch on what makes them different.
They are different. So micro weddings are typically 50 guests and under. Even if it was a non-COVID wedding, that's on the smaller side, it's 50 guests and under. And even though the guest count is small, the experience does not have to be. And I find that the smaller the guest count, the more room you kind of have in your budget for these big, fun things. So the micro weddings could be, at a private dining room in a restaurant, at a private home, but the experience should still be as exciting. So I don't want people to hear the word micro and think their wedding's going to be watered down. It's not going to be. It's just the guest count is smaller and more intimate, which is great. You get to say hi to all of your guests and actually enjoy your guest.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple things about planning and the process of that. So wanted to kind of talk about the different options you have, because there's full design and planning, and then there's day of coordination, and then some of the social events you do. So kind of what are the differences between those and kind of what to expect?
Sure. So with full planning, typically I'm either the first vendor they have booked, or I'm the second. A lot of times they have the venue, they realize, okay, what do I do now? And then they hire me, or they're like, I don't even know how to find a venue. I need to hire a planner first. So that process is typically about a year to 18 months in the making. And we're with you from start to finish. So we're finding the venues for you and attending all those meetings. We build your team of wedding vendors. We do a site visit at your venue and kind of, relaying back to the destination weddings. Even if we've seen your venue and know it inside and out, I've never seen it through your eyes. So it's important that we walk through the space, and I want to know, how do you envision your guest walking in, or what's the first thing you want them to see? So we kind of do a design session through that site visit. We're there to ensure wedding stationery goes out on time, so save the dates, invitations. A lot of times I do RSVP management for my couples because they're really busy, and I get excited when I get mail, so I like collecting the RSVPs on behalf of them and kind of managing that. So just anything pertaining to the wedding, we are there with you. A huge component to that is budget breakdown. So we take budgets very seriously. So I never want to show my couple something, have them fall in love with it, and it's not realistic. It's out of their budget. So when planning, we're very realistic of that budget. I'm constantly, we start off with a budget breakdown on what I think they're going to spend in every category. And then from there, I'm constantly updating that document that shows exactly what they're spending in each category. So that's a huge part of it. Second to that is the wedding day coordination. So that service starts 2 months prior to their wedding date. So most of the planning is done by then, but we step in to help tie up any loose ends. So that's for the bride who, one, it's not in their budget to have a full wedding planner, or two, they're doing a really good job at planning their wedding and truly need someone to just step in and be there for them. So we give ourselves 2 months to learn the wedding inside and out. We're there to coordinate the wedding rehearsal and on-site unlimited hours the day of. Even though the bulk of those services don't start until 2 months out, like, I still want to build that relationship with you and hear from you. I would want you to reach out if you had questions or needed advice or anything like that. But again, it's 2 months out, so most of the planning's done by then. We're there to just take all of your plans and organize it and execute it for you the day of.
That's awesome. I love that. And then with social events, just a little portion of that. Obviously, we're talking mainly wedding, but a lot of your clients I know in the past have had you as their wedding planner, and then now we are baby showers and birthdays and other bridal showers in. So
all the things.
Building that relationship with you, I think, is so important because you are a new bestie when it comes to talking all things planning. So want to let people know that it's the same thing. When we were talking to Kristen Marie earlier today, she said that she's been taking photographs of people of their engagement and wedding, and then now she's taking pictures of their babies. So I really love that, and I want to make sure everybody knew that that was an option for you as well. So if you're gathering people together, Angelica can help you plan that.
Yes, please. We always get sad. Like, my brides, they have like the post-wedding blues. They're like, well, wait, like, can I still talk to you? And I'm like, absolutely. Like, I want to hear from you. So yes, all the social things we would be happy to be a part of.
Awesome. So you had touched on the expectation of timing. So about 1 to 2 years out based on how things are happening. Obviously, we know with COVID, people are changing their dates. And of course, you're happy to accommodate based on what's happening or make adjustments with them if they decide to change what they wanted to do originally or add on something else. I'm sure you're working with them without any issues. I did want to, as time is starting to tick away, wanted to talk about pricing. There are expectations with pricing. And a lot of times instead of talking about a full budget, we're talking more about a per person price point. And obviously that can range. But for some of the weddings that we've been seeing you doing today, specifically in the photos, what would you expect for some of the price point there?
I love this question because a lot of couples start out with, well, I don't have a budget. And I'm like, so I could spend $5 million, like, let's do it. And they're like, oh, no. I'm like, okay, so you do have a budget. So I love to help guide couples with that. So on average, and this is all inclusive of everything, we're seeing budgets roughly around $500 to $600 per guest. So times that number, times the guest you have, and roughly that's where your budget should land to be able to encompass everything. All the vendor team, myself, food and beverage, all the fun entertainment things. So roughly that's how we're kind of helping couples gauge where their budget should be.
Which I think is great because when you're thinking about your budget and you're like, oh, I have this set amount, well, then maybe it might be a way to look at how many guests you can accommodate within that price point. And that's also giving you a little bit of wiggle room when it comes to what you want as your experience and what you want to offer, and have a little bit of ability to kind of move around that. So we got a couple of questions asked in advance, and we were able to actually offer and answer this one. So like you had mentioned, you do have preferred vendors that you use, but I wanted to make sure that people knew that you offer specific to them. So another question that we got is, do you book more than one wedding per day?
So in 12 years, no, we do not. But because of COVID and because so many of our brides this year have postponed to next year, there might be a day where we do have more than one wedding. So let's say I have a full planning, we're able to take on a day of coordination, and then my team can execute the day of. So we try not to, because I really just want to put my 100% heart and soul into that one wedding. But if we have to split up because dates are being booked up for brides that were supposed to get married this year, then we could accommodate that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm sure people would know in advance if for some reason they were the secondary wedding. There's no hiding that. There's no shame. I'm sure they're fully aware of it being another planner.
Yes, absolutely. And I would give them the option, like if they're not, I have brides that aren't comfortable with booking a wedding if it's not me doing it. So I just make sure I'm upfront with them and be like, yes, I have this date available, or I'm already booked for a wedding, but my team is available.
Perfect. So thank you so much. We are right at that time slot. We are good on time, but I want to say thank you so much for joining us again today.
For this platform.
It's wonderful. We're so excited to have everybody who's joined us today. And if you have any questions for Angelica, you can reach her at angelicaroseevents.com. She has a contact form there. You can reach out to her directly, ask any additional questions you might have had. And then one special thing that I wanted to mention is that as a special offer just to our Wedding Team Collective couples is that if you do book of planning with Angelica, she is going to offer you a complimentary get ready continental breakfast. So for you and the team you're getting ready with, so if that's bridesmaids, mom, grandma, any of that, then she would be happy to take care of your breakfast that morning, because nothing's more important than having a full, healthy breakfast before starting such a big day.
It's true. I'm an Italian mother. I have to make sure my people eat.
I love it. I think it's fabulous. And I think it's such an important factor, and it's something to take off your plate. So if you book with Angelica using the Wedding Team Collective name, then she will make sure to gift that to you. So thank you again for joining us. And
thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful rest of the day, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.